How's it going, everyone? It's Grammatica again. Welcome to Miniature Painting from an Average Joe, Part 2. If you haven't seen Part 1, go ahead and check it out on my channel. It is a good little comprehensive 15-minute video just kind of diving into the basic essentials of getting into the hobby. We talk about brushes, primers, all those good things, and good cost-effective measures to save yourself some money if you're just diving into it. Again, this hobby is supposed to be fun, and if you're not having fun and you're worried about the price, well, give yourself a break, watch more videos on it, and let yourself really make sure that you're ready to join into this wonderful hobby that is ahead. Anyways, this is part 2. We are going to be diving into hobby knives, paint palettes. There's different varieties you can go about with that, as well as miniature stands and some DIY stuff that I've done that really helped, as well as at-home water pots that you can use. Basically the little miscellaneous details that go hand in hand with part 1. We're going to start off with hobby knives. Now, if you don't know what a hobby knife is, here is my own personal one. It's got the safety cap on it right now, and I'll take that off in a couple seconds. But essentially, all a hobby knife is a sharpened blade similar to like an X-Acto knife or a box cutter that is used to help shave excess portions of molding on certain miniatures. An example of what that looks like, I actually have a 3D print right now. If you can see right here on the pauldron of this figure and the hood, there are tiny surface level details that are kind of spiking out. These commonly happen with any miniature mold. It doesn't matter if it's a 3D print or if it was a pre-painted mold that you got from your hobby store. Each mini will sometimes, if not always, have a little deformity on there that can be shaved away using one of these tools. And I will be making a separate video on that, covering, safety of shaving off those portions and what to look for. It's not a bad thing, again, and when you get into the hobby, it's very common that miniatures will come with those little extremities that need to be shaved off. Sometimes you don't need to. If it's not bothering you too much, then you're more than happy to leave it. It's just a little extra detail refinery, kind of helps make the painting aspect go along a little bit better. The smoother the figure, the smoother your brush strokes are going to be, and the paint will go on a lot better. But anyways, the hobby knife is just there to help you shave off those little extremities. Here it is without the safety cap. And again, you can get these at any, hobby store. You can get them at Walmart. Any craft section should have a selection of hobby knives and, most importantly, replacement blades. Now, I try my best to make sure that my blades are taken care of. That means I'm always putting my safety cap back on when I'm done with the mini that I'm using. That way the blade isn't, touching up against any wood or hard surfaces that could warp the blade in any way. So you can as well buy replacement blades at your same craft store. They should be next to each other, maybe a little bit further down or up, depending on how the store lays out the hobby section. Typical price, it ranges. Name brand Army Painter can be a little bit more pricey, similar to what I talked about with the brushes. I again highly recommend just finding a local craft store and getting a hobby knife through them, because you're probably going to save a couple, if not a few dollars on your purchase, including replacement blades. We're looking at maybe a total of maybe an $8 purchase, which includes replacement blades. And that's like the extreme of the extremes in pricings. This one it was a semi more expensive one that one of my friends had gotten for me. They had been using it and they really recommended it, and I already had a hobby knife at the time, but I was like, you know what, if you want to give me one, go for it. But you can see like it's been through, you know, wear and tear like normal, but the blade sharpness is still good for removing any of those extremities on miniature figures. Again, very essential purchase if you're wanting to make sure that, you know, any prints that you do or prints that you buy from your miniature store have a more refined look to them. So yeah, that is the hobby knife. Next up, we are going to talk about paint pallets. Now, if you look right now on the desk, I actually use this as a paint palette. This is literally just a piece of cardboard that I had cut from a cereal box that I was done with. So cardboard is a really good, I would say a pretty good palette for laying out your paints, and definitely using for like dry brushing. You're looking for something that isn't going to absorb the paint fully, and when you're dry brushing, that's like a key essential aspect of any paint that you're using. And I found that information out through a Reddit post, I believe, of someone asking for recommendations on a good palette while on a tight budget. You can literally recycle your cereal boxes and have a good base palette. Again, the paint's going to dry on it, so it doesn't matter. You can just do as many droplets as you want on these things. I highly recommend that you prime the cardboard before putting paints on it. In this case, you can see I used a white primer, and you can see all the assortments of, like, I had skin tones over here. I have just more whites and grays blended. There's some metallics thrown in, but base coating it with the primer, as we discussed in the last video, is a really good idea just to make sure that the paint stays while maintaining, you know, coverage. So that is the bare bones budget. If you eat cereal or have any type of cardboard from a box, use it. You can cut it. It's super easy to maintain, and when you're done with it, you can dispose of it and easily get another piece. Now, if you're looking for a genuine palette that you can get from a craft store, I highly recommend just your standard, you know, plastic $1.99, you know, Dollar Tree variety palette. These are so good. They're easy to clean. I know mine is definitely needing it. I haven't painted in a while, so a lot of this dry stuff I can easily get out using either my hobby knife or even my, you know, fingernail can get stuff out. So these palettes are good because of the one variety of placements that you can put your paints in, and two, when they're in this dish format and you have all these openings, it's a lot easier to put water in your paints to thin them and keep them hydrated before they dry out. Again, this was a very, very cheap, you know, purchase, and I 100% recommend it. I don't have it with me right now, but a cool kind of new twist on palettes are using the Pop-It plastic, there's heart shapes, regular squares, but they're basically the stem toy that a lot of kids use, where you can push down certain buttons and it will click it down. And hobbyists have been using those nowadays for their contrast or speed paints, because the paint, when it dries, you just pop up the other side and it removes it, and it makes it easier to clean. I have one, I just left it at my work, so I will have to bring that in and kind of showcase that, because I'm really curious how that works. But if you have one of those on hand and would like to use that instead, there's another alternative. I hope you're picking up on the trend in this hobby that anything can be an alternative. And there's so many different ways for us to save money to make sure that we aren't spending, an arm and a leg to invest in this hobby. Um, that's all I have for pallets. And if you have any other recommendations, please, feel free to drop those in the comments. I'm always wanting to learn and discuss more about this hobby and share even more details. Next up, we are going to talk about miniature base stands. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit and I'm going to show you two varieties of stands that I have used. The first one is your name brand Citadel stand that most miniature stores share and have available for purchase. They can be, again, kind of pushing in the prices because it's name brand, it's Citadel. When anything is name branded like that, you're going to be paying, pretty decent amount. I only got this for the sole purpose that my other one right here, I just needed something with a little bit more stability. And with these Citadel stands, they stretch out to fit larger bases. And that was perfect for me, as well as I enjoyed the thinner handle right here to where it really forms around my hands a lot easier than the old one I was using. But again, it is name branded, so it is going to be just a little bit more in cost. I think it was $8 for this, but it's really made all the difference. Again, when you can adjust the sizing for placement of the base and it locks it in like that, oh man, it makes a world of a difference. That's the name brand. What I got from my hobby store was, I believe this was in like the wood ballast section, so like different rods and other wooden materials were there. This may have been just like a decorative ornament piece of wood, and it had something screwed in the bottom, so when I bought it, I think this was literally $1. Super cheap. And I just unscrewed the bottom and then it was the perfect little miniature stand. This is what I painted my first miniature on. And you might be asking, well, how did you do that? Like, what did you use to keep it in place? Don't worry, we're going to dive into that next. But these are really cheap alternatives and are very easy to get a hold of. And it lasted me for years. Within my 3-year time, this lasted me the first two. And I've only recently just been using this because I purchased it not too long ago. So again, you can find this at any craft store in their wood section. And I very much recommend it as a beginner product. Again, we're looking for cost effectiveness. We're not looking to get the best of the best right now. We're average Joes. We got to get what we can get so we can really see if we want to invest further. Now, what I used to keep that miniature in place when I first painted was this little guy here. Or I guess I should say little guys. There's a whole package of them in my desk. This is sticky tack, or some people call it like hobby paste, I think, or something like that. It's basically like a sticky, very like malleable piece of tack that is used to go on the base, and you don't need to use this much. But you take a portion of it, put it in the center where you need it, and then you would take a figure, for instance, let's just use this guy as an example, and you would align the figure and get it to stick on it so you could paint it. So now I don't need to worry about it falling off because it's, stuck to the tack, and I get full, 360-degree rotation on the mini. And yeah, so you just use some sticky tack. When you buy a pack of it, there's like, I think 4 strips is the minimum like sizing, but you can get some that have like 8. So larger capacity, you're going to pay a little bit more, but it was only, I think, a couple dollars. It did not cost a lot, and it lasts basically a long time. If it ever feels kind of tough, you can, what I like to call, wake up the tack by just stretching it, and it's similar to like a Play-Doh. In this case, though, you can't really revive Play-Doh, but you can revive sticky tack, and the sticky tack is very effective. I know at some point sticky tack loses that obvious stickiness, but in the 3 years I've painted, I still have my original pack of sticky tack, and it has not lost any stickiness whatsoever. I don't know if maybe it's because I'm doing something differently, but just to keep that in mind. That is all I have for bases. The next thing I want to talk about is containers for your water. When you're working with minis and you're painting, you need to have a way to wash off your brushes and remove any excess paint that you're no longer using. This means you can use small cups, you can use mugs. There's different assortments of ways you can, go about this. The cheapest I found was simply going to my Dollar Tree and going into their Tupperware section and looking for little containers like this. Things that are, maybe 99 cents to $1. And all it is just a tiny container, Tupperware container. You can put your water in it. You can do, if you do like solvent mixes, you can put them in that. Basically just find one dedicated piece to use for washing off your brushes, and then occasionally give it a good hand wash using soap and water in your sink. And I treat it like when I was in elementary school and we would be working with paints, and we'd have to clean our pallets, we'd have to clean the bowls, the cups, whatever we were using. This is the perfect size. It's not too big, not too little, and does the job. As you can see, it's gotten a little dirty. It can still be used for quite a while though before I want to clean it. But yeah, this was, again, 99 cents to maybe a couple bucks at most, and you can get this at any dollar store, Dollar Tree, any kind of market will sell them in like a package of 5 maybe. So you've got options when it comes to this. The next canister for water I like to use is a little dropper. Now, I got this from my local craft store at a Michael's, and all this really is used for is when you get your fresh water in here, you can just fill up a little bit. Again, you don't have to fill up the whole thing. I usually maybe go a quarter of the way up, and you just get clear water in there and you let it stay there, and you use this to thin out your paints. So whenever you're using your palette, and say you've got your paints in here, so you need to thin them out, so you're going to go through and you're just going to give it a couple of drops. I've modified this one a little bit. I had to cut off the there was like an extension, a metal extension that made the droplets even smaller, but I had to cut it because this accidentally fell into my glue that I was using. So the cap itself like solidified really badly, so I had to take my hobby knife and just kind of slice off the tip, but it still dispenses droplets just fine. I don't think I have a fresh one anymore. I think I may have gotten rid of that one due to another situational circumstance where it got damaged in some way, but I can't remember. But these are very, very useful in making sure that your paints, aren't glopping up everywhere, and that they are fresh and won't dry out when you're painting something, which is especially useful when you're doing larger scale minis, like that dragon turtle, for instance, and you need your paints to stay active for a little bit longer than what is typically intended. Outside of that, there really isn't much else. All we have left to cover now, friends, are paints, and that is where we will start talking more into the pricing of this hobby and ways that we can go about refining our searches. I will be discussing paints that work for me when I was first starting out, and how you can go about accumulating more paints but in a price-effective manner. Thank you guys so much for spending this day with me. I won't lie, it's nice to be back, and it was a good 2-week break, but if you're struggling with needing any assistance in any way, whether it's mental or physical, or just need to have a lending ear, I hope this channel can be that little space for you to just come here and relax and enjoy learning a possible hobby to get you through those troubling times. The good thing is, you're not alone. You are loved, you are thought of, you are not alone. Thank you guys, and I'll see you in the next video.